So just settling into whatever is your comfortable and regular meditation posture. Sitting in a way that you can be alert and still relaxed. You can close your eyes or just lower your gaze. And relaxing the jaw, facial muscles, and feeling what it feels like to let the face drop. Very interestingly. You might notice how there's a tendency to hold the face together in some way, as if it would fall apart if we didn't, squeeze everything. So what happens when you just let it go? It can actually kind of trigger a release internally and help you to relax the whole body. Releasing the shoulders, softening the belly. And you might just touch into different areas of the body, different muscle groups to see if there's any tension, any tightness or holding. And see if you can release any of that. You might find places that don't want to release, that kind of stubborn, stuck. So actually a natural thing. We become so habituated in our various forms of clinging in the body that can be difficult to actually let go. And so this sense of releasing through the body can also have the effect of helping us to release any emotional tension, any stress or anxiety. It's one of the things that we come up against as we soften, see the holding on that level, on that felt level. So we can use the breath here as a way of working with this and really working with any area of holding or tension. So feeling the breath, maybe you can breathe a little more deeply if that helps. Particularly a sense that you're opening up opening particularly the chest and belly. And then as you exhale, that kind of draining whatever is uncomfortable or agitated in those areas. But this is all really part of arriving, just trying to settle, to get past the ordinary stresses that we carry with us, often unnoticed. One of the ironies of meditation is that we often come to meditation in order to relax, or that's what we want, to get some peace. But as soon as we turn inward, that's when we really see all the ways that we are not relaxed, that we are not at peace. So it can almost seem as if meditating makes it worse, when really what's happening is that we're just bringing more awareness to our present state. Most of the time we don't pay attention to these feelings. Instead, trying to outrun them or suppress them or do something to make them go away. But the practice of mindfulness encourages us to turn toward whatever is present. This takes a certain amount of courage and patience, kindness, compassion for ourselves, and trust. Trust in this process. Trust that this isn't something that's just going to keep building and becoming more difficult, but rather that turning toward is the beginning of letting go. Just now letting the attention gather around the breath. Letting the practice become quite simple. Just feeling the touch of the breath, the movement of the breath. And as the mind wanders, just when you notice that, returning, coming back to the present moment breath. Where does your mind want to go? What stories are most prominent now? What's setting off those stories? Can be worth just kind of glancing at the thoughts to understand these things. Not to turn it into another round of analysis. Really very quickly, in just a moment of looking at a thought, we'll often know a great deal about why it's there. We see through it. And then just letting it go. My bell was up against a pile of books. When I hit the bell, it like clanked. But then it sounded like one of those Thich Nhat Hanh things where you, it's the thing where they go, they clank it first and before they hit it. So I figured I'll just pretend I was clanking it intentionally. They're all Dharma books, including Alcoholics Anonymous, just in case you're wondering what books I have around me. um, they say you're not supposed to put Dharma books on the floor or put things on top of them, that aren't like, a glass or, something. So just, it's sort of a, um, you know, just a politeness, but it always feels kind of good to like, yeah, don't do that. It makes me more mindful too when I'm tempted to like, throw something on top of it. So hello again. Um, Strange days, as the Doors put it. So in the title of their second album. In any case, well, yeah, my topic for the evening is to talk about retreats, and I might read a little from the book. I'm just going to start by talking about retreats, and if I run out of things to say, I'll fall back on my book. Yeah, because obviously I've been thinking about the retreat because we're going to teach a retreat shortly. We're offering this retreat starting on 2 days from now on Sunday. But I also just scheduled my own self-retreat in December. I'm going to take a week and just do a self-retreat. And, I've had a commitment for a long time to go on a retreat every year, at least go on one retreat. And usually I only go on one retreat each year. And in the last 41 years, yeah, I've missed a couple years. I think somewhere in there about 87, I missed a year. And then I think actually around 2013, I might have missed one. I had a bad retreat in 2012. It was like, bummer, it's like, and like a bad trip. And it was my fault, but anyway, I think I was a little scared off by that. But when I started to practice Buddhist meditation in the fall of 1980, it was very much in the Buddhist culture, particularly the like Vipassana insight meditation culture, that retreats were like the most important thing. And I envisioned retreats as being magical and as being sort of something that would just like fix things or be instantly transformative. And, sort of this mystical image. And at the same time, before I went on my first retreat, I was very nervous about being in silence all those days and sitting, meditating all that time. In those days, I had functioning knees. So I would sit in a cross-legged posture, and that was difficult to sustain. And, so I had all these expectations, and then I went on my first retreat, which was over Thanksgiving in 1980, and it really wound up. It was transformative, but not quite in the way I'd hoped. I guess it was. It sort of started this big upheaval, which maybe was the beginning of getting sober, but I didn't get sober for 5 years after that, so it was quite a process. But it did really uh, bring out a lot of feelings that I wasn't used to, and it particularly like mm, it brought out a tenderness and a sense of compassion. But I think tenderness. I like the word tenderness because it was like it my feeling, my capacity to like just uh, well up in tears, it kind of was opened up. So, they talk about the heart center opening. So that was really important because I'd really been shut down uh, through my 20s and, you know, uh, drinking and using and all the rest of the unmanageable emotions. And that began, and there was a lot more to it. I mean, over that first year, I practiced quite a bit, and that's sort of documented in my writing. I went on a 3-week retreat in the spring and then a 3-month retreat in the fall of 1981. And um, it was tremendous meditation training, and there's no substitute for it. And and it didn't fix me, and it didn't solve my life's problems. And it also left me with a kind of a narrow idea, this idea that retreats were the be all and end all of Buddhist practice. So that attitude certainly changed and evolved over the years. And so I wanted to say that I think that over the last couple of decades, particularly with the arising of the sort of secular mindfulness movement apart from Buddhism, this the importance of retreats has kind of receded in people's minds. And the idea that mindfulness meditation as just something you do as part of your daily life, and that mindfulness itself as something you just apply to your daily life is plenty. Like that's all you, it's enough. I think that has taken hold to some extent, and so I think that we've gone from one imbalance to another. Essentially, is kind of what I feel about this idea of it's all retreats or it's no retreats. And some of and some of you have been part of the mindfulness teacher training Jack Cornfield and Tara Brach do, and there's a very limited requirement in terms of retreat practice to get into that. And it's the one thing that I'm a little like, to be a meditation teacher, even on a limited level, without doing a fair amount of retreat practice, it just gives you a very, well, I'll just say that going on retreats really expands your understanding of meditation and uh, your experience of it. Uh, you know, there's a way in which we sort of think of like, I'm going to learn to meditate, then I'm going to get good at it. And then it's going to be like this when I meditate. And instead, when you go on retreats, especially if you go on a longer retreat, it's just constantly changing, and it gets rich and deep and intense, and then it gets completely disrupted and it's not working at all. It gets worse. And you go down every avenue and every sort of attic of your mind. I think that might be a song too. Like you go through all these kind of places, and that can be really challenging, but it's really illuminating, and it's very educational. You really start to get a sense of the potential of meditation, as well as an understanding of the complexity of our minds. That's none of that. I'm not saying enough or quite saying it right, but but at the heart of it, retreats are this opportunity to step away from our ordinary life and ultimately to step away from our ordinary mind and see another mind that is more pure and less personal. I don't. The word pure is a little strange too. I don't mean that in any holy way, but what I mean is one that's less complicated. A simpler mind in a way, um, and and to really see what the Buddha taught. You know, we read Buddhist books and we nod our heads. Yeah, yeah, I understand that. Uh, but when you go through all this stuff and you really see, I mean, like a great term the Buddha uses, papancha, mental proliferation. That's one of the things you really see on retreats, how you can be sitting there for like 45-minute meditation and your mind goes completely somewhere else for the whole time. And the bell rings and you're like, wow, I just missed that whole set, it goes just, and you think, but I'm on a retreat and I'm really concentrated. But the thing is, you find like the concentration itself, that isn't a guarantee of that there's mindfulness. You can be very concentrated without mindfulness, which means you can concentrate on your fantasies even better. You know, you can get even more lost in your fantasies because there's nothing distracting you from your fantasies. Um, but I typically, if you guys know me pretty well by now, that I tend to go into the like, what's the bad part about this? What's the negative thing I could point to? So just to say that obviously, like all of this is so rich, and everything that I have as a meditation teacher and as a really as a human being, so much of it anyway, uh, it comes out of what's blossomed out of my retreat practice. And when I think about this coming week, what the word that comes to mind is refuge. This is this term for uh, taking a commitment to be um, a follower of the Buddha, basically taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, the Buddha as a teacher and as a model and as an ideal, the Dharma, the teachings, the practices, the insights, and the Sangha, the community that supports us all through that all. And when we go on retreat, we are stepping away from our ordinary lives, stepping away from the internet, from the news, from our friends, from our families, um, and from it may be equally important, everything that's familiar and under our control. We're letting go of all that, both externally and internally. And we're stepping into this container that allows us to do this precious work, which is, it's uh, it, it it needs this container. We need to be protected in this work, uh, to be in a safe place where it's okay to be silent, to be you don't have to do anything for anybody. You're not responsible to anybody, and and it's okay to let go of your inner control, your inner suppressant, and let whatever is going to come up, and sit with it and sit through it and surf it and breathe with it and learn to hold it, and the power that comes through that, like, right, that's what our practice is. one of the critical things that the practice is teaching us is how to be with the whole of our existence, the whole of our body and our mind, and to feel it all and not to try to control it, to fix it, but to let it all be as it is and to not be afraid of it and to realize that it's okay to not be in control. It's okay that everything is impermanent. It's okay that, I'm going to get sick and die. That's like the big one out there. Like, oh, I can be with whatever is arising, and what freedom that gives you, that you don't have to change things, that you don't have to fix things, that things don't have to be a particular way for you to be okay. Um, so the retreat is like another container in which we can practice just being with whatever is, and know that we're okay. And the teachers will be there to support people, and the community will be there. I'll say that, the thing that attracts people, certainly attracts me to retreats, is the deep stillness, the concentration that can be developed. Now, I haven't really talked about it, which is interesting because I've often emphasized that in talking about retreats. But I will say that there is this pleasure that comes, and this is why it can become sort of you can start to think that's what the purpose of retreats is. And I think for a long time I did believe that, to get to this place, like it's because there's a high, that you experience that's unique and can't be found anywhere else that I know of, especially without drugs. And that is very special and very attractive. And it's kind of like the payoff, for being willing to sit with the rest of it, and being willing to do the work, is that then you get this added thing, which is this sweetness and this calm. It manifests in many different ways. It can manifest in a very heartfelt way, just a feeling of love and connection. It can manifest in a sense of deep stillness. It can, how else can it manifest? Just a sense of connection to the natural world, and a tremendous appreciation of all our sense experience. Just not hearing music for a while, and when you hear music, like, wow, it's so beautiful because the mind is so clear. So I think that's enough. And I'm going to be back. I'm going to be back next Friday night, and that'll be after the retreat. So I'm going to kind of like continue this topic next week. And maybe then I'll get around to my book, the One Breath at a Time version of this topic. I like to sometimes just use the topics that are in One Breath at a Time to get me going in the present moment, rather than going back to that book and trying to get into that. But since this is the never-ending class, it's open-ended. I always have a sense of freedom in terms of, I can just continue to go. I mean, we've been on step 11 now for months. I'm pretty sure I could look back and see, but it's been a while, and it's like, yeah, it's cool. So I'll just open it up for any questions, comments, contributions. I know many of you have been on retreats and have had powerful experiences on retreats. And certainly if anybody wants to share any of that, because I certainly didn't cover everything about retreats. That's for sure, right? So, or if you are curious, if there's anything that you're curious about, I'm happy to talk about that too. Whatever is up. So the floor is open. Oh, Steve, you're coming.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. I wish I was leaving tomorrow.
Yeah.
Everything, I'm quite subdued because everything that you were talking about and teaching us tonight is everything that goes through my mind. I just don't have the ability to articulate. When I got back from my 4-day retreat at Spirit Rock a couple of weeks ago, and I was sharing that, I was feeling so relaxed. And I don't know what has happened to me. Now, retreats for me, going back historically, was me. Then this started in the 80s too. For me, it was always just running up to Sea Ranch and renting a house for a week and then just, plowing through the drugs and smoking pot and eating. That was what a retreat was for me.
Wow.
And I thought that I was in this state of bliss, but I was in complete misery the whole time. So I never really understood. And I didn't really have a practice. I didn't, but now I've been practicing seriously for a couple of years. And the more I study and the more I read and the more I do this, but there's something happening to me, which is kind of scary. And when I came back from the experience of the retreat, I got back into the chaotic life, raising my grandson and all the different things. And I just went right back to the food, and I've been into the food ever since. And it's killing me. And I'm feeling very emotional about it. So I just want to get out into the forest so I don't have to deal with the food. But and I don't understand what that's about. And I mean, I feel this joy when I released alcohol, and my story is very similar to yours. And I remember the bliss I've been feeling finally getting off prescription drugs 3 years ago. And I've had these moments where I've been abstinent and stayed away from the food and the flour and the sugar. And when I fall back into it, it's a very scary place to be. I don't know. I have so many questions. I just can't wait to get out into the retreat and to concentrate. And I'm looking forward to catapulting me into some kind of recovery around my food addiction. So thank you for your work. Thank you for your teaching, and anything that you can lay on me, I'm all ears.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I think it sounds like, my diagnosis, such as it is retreats open you up, and food is a way of shutting down, and it's hard to be open, and it's scary to be open. And so as when people first get into recovery, it can be overwhelming and knock you back, and so it's there's a term that the therapists, counselors use, the abstinence violation effect, and it has to do with the extremes. Like, I'm gonna be perfect and abstain. I'm on retreat. I'm silent. I'm just eating rice and vegetables. Everything is pure. And then you come out of that, and you flip back to the other extreme, and so we have to learn the middle way. And
even in your book, in this one here, in the Daily Reflections, a couple of days after I got back from my retreat, October 17th, Elements of Self-Care. You write right here, one of the first things we need to address in recovery is diet. Yeah. When we're caught in self-destructive addictions, healthy food is often a low priority. To get well and to feel good, we need to establish healthy eating habits. And for those with eating disorders, obviously this is even more important. I read that every day now. I mean, it's like, whoa, what is this? It's a magical thing because it's so true.
Yeah. And it's not, and I know it's really not easy, but it has to be approached as a practice and as a recovery program that's built around mindfulness. Because if it's approached as an abstinence or a repressive practice, then it's going to have this bounce back effect, and that's the thing you have to learn. I mean, I can't really speak. That's not my my addiction, so I can't. It's so, because it's not my addiction, it's really easy for me to talk about it and tell you what to do, basically. And so I don't know that that's, but the people I've worked with who are who've developed the mindful eating programs really believe that it's possible, if you wholeheartedly apply your mindfulness practice to your eating, it's possible to bring that into balance in a healthy way without turning it into an abstinence program. Now I know that goes against some of the philosophy of some of the abstinence-based food programs. So that's why I'm not sitting here. I'm not espousing any particular approach. I'm just letting you know the things you can look into. So
Well, I appreciate it. And that's why I'm here. So thank you very much.
thanks, Steve. So Catherine T, hello.
Hello, I am happy to be here. Thank you for having this. I'm actually embarking on my first retreat coming up on Sunday.
Oh, good.
And I'm super looking forward to it. And I have all these fears, and of course I'm working through them on my own way and doing inventory, talking to wonderful people like Angela and some friends who have done some silent retreats, not recovery based, but in other realms. So yeah, I'm like, anyway, I'm a bit nervous, but also very excited.
Yeah.
I'm very, very open to the experience and just trying not to try to practice step 3 with this whole thing. I think that's going to be big for me for
Very
this.
good. Good
and,
step.
And step 11, I think. But anyway, I guess my main question would be, I don't have a posture that's like I'm super comfortable with. I sit in chairs all around my house, do musical chairs. I sit on the beach on a rock. They're like, bring your own meditation props. It's like, well, I can't bring my boulder from the beach, Anyway, so I've been practicing, like trying to sit on cushions, and I guess I have a little fear of just like not finding the right, not like the being in pain, which I'm actually working through. I don't know. I just a little nervous about like not being comfortable and not looking comfortable, and how, anyway, just that's my random question.
There are chairs there. And as I recall, they looked like they were pretty nice chairs. And at some point you will almost certainly be uncomfortable. When you sit for long periods, even in the most comfortable chair or posture, it eventually gets to be difficult. And that's a really important part of practice. I know that's not how we advertise it because it's not a very good marketing campaign. Come and suffer with us. But working with those sensations, as long as they're within the range of manageability, turns out to be a really helpful tool. And it operates on several levels. It first of all helps you to let go of fear of pain, which is a normal part of life, right? So it's part of our recovery, is like working with discomfort, and like, I don't have to fix this right away. But it also can actually really sharpen the attention and the concentration to just actually sit with or relax around a sensation and just focus on it. As I often talk about at some point on the retreat, I'll say now, like, the breath can be really elusive. So it can be hard for the mind to kind of get concentrated around it. But if you're having like a relatively, I'm talking about like a mild but unpleasant sensation in the body that's sort of persistent, that can actually become a great concentration object. And the thing is, once you concentrate on it, it stops being really a problem. And that's one of the things that we learn, is how powerful the effect of our concentration and our mindfulness can be in kind of really allowing us to hold sensations that we would otherwise struggle with, and find that, this is okay. I can be with this. So you'll be fine.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to it. I read in your book, A Burning Desire, you talked about in a section about your knee and like focusing on, as opposed to having aversion to it, focusing on it. And
Yeah.
even just now when I was meditating, my foot started falling asleep, and right when the bell rung, it was back to normal. So it's just, I'm super looking forward to it. But thank you
Yeah.
for that info, because that's helpful. And fidgeting will be okay.
Yeah, fidgeting is.
Sorry if I'm fidget. I might be fidgety.
You'll work with that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good. Well, I'm glad you're coming, Catherine. That's great. Exciting. Dolores, you've got your hand up there.
Yeah, thank
Hi.
you. Thank you, Kevin. Hi.
Are you flying out from Florida to
Oh, how I
visit
wish,
us?
how I wish, how I wish. If I was able, if I was what I was 10 years ago, I would already be there waiting. So sorry. I wish I could be.
Just
Yeah,
teasing. Just teasing.
I hear you, but I mean it with my heart. If I lived in California close by, I'd have my nurse, we would both come,
Yeah,
like that thing. Anyway, maybe someday you'll be here in Florida. We'll see.
maybe.
Anyway, what I wanted to share with you is I'm not going to be there. Wish I was, but I have gone on, I've never been on a Buddhist retreat, but I've been on many retreats over the years, many retreats, and had lots of experiences. But what I want to address and hope you can expand on it a little further is what Steve was talking about. I didn't understand what was happening to me, and I think it needs to be explained. When I would go on this retreat, I would have this high that was just so wonderful, and then I would leave, and I would be low, so down in the dumps. And I thought, oh, perhaps I was being too egotistical. Now my ego's going the other way. Like I would try to reason it out in my head because I couldn't understand how I could feel so good and how I could feel so terrible. I began to understand that happens. That's what happens. And it's okay. It's like I'm learning something. In other words, whatever happened to me on retreat, I did receive a lot of grace and strength to be able to go through that darkness and learn from it. So I began to know that it was going to come and that it was going to be okay. So I wanted to just put that out there because I think more people have to know that could happen. And maybe it does happen to a lot of people.
Yeah, I haven't had that happen, Dolores, but
Okay.
now that I know about it, maybe it will. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, the message to me is everything is impermanent. That's the Buddhist message. It's like, yeah, if you're going to get high, then you're going to have to get low too. Highness is only, in contrast to lowness. And absolutely, that capacity to be with all of it. And that's why the Buddha talks about attachment as the problem, right? It's when we get attached to the high, then when the low hits, we're really upset.
Yeah.
But if we're just enjoying the high without being attached, when the low comes, we go, oh, here's low. Oh, well, okay. It sucks, but,
I thought I was doing something wrong. That's the point I want to bring out.
Yes.
And like I really related with Steve, and I hope I'm not, getting into crosstalk or things like that. But I just wanted to share with him, that and I thought I was doing something wrong. But what can I do differently? Nothing. That's what
I think, thank you, Dolores. I think that idea of I think I'm doing wrong is really a good one in general, in terms of our practice. But yeah, I can definitely, when it applies to something like that, where it's like, oh, I had this beautiful experience and then I crashed afterwards, like, what's wrong? But as I say, it's so true. I mean, meditation retreats, perfect examples. Like I'm sitting and my body hurts, or I'm really distracted, or I've gotten really pissed off, or somebody in the meditation hall is really annoying me the way they breathe. And so I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? If I'm not thinking what's wrong with me, I'm thinking what's wrong with them. So it's always like, what's wrong? And it's, that's like the wrong question, right? That's like, nothing's wrong. This is it's all just part of Yeah, I mean, again, I'll go back to this idea that when we do this kind of practice of stillness and letting things open up, it makes us more sensitive. And being more sensitive, is a double-edged sword, right? It means that you're going to feel more joy, but also, I don't know if I could say more pain, but you're going to feel everything fully. It's why after my first retreat, I spent a lot of the week crying. And then at the end of the week, John Lennon got murdered. So that added to the tears.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's when it was, December 8th, 1980, for those of us who remember. And so yeah, that's the price we pay for allowing ourselves to feel. And that this is another way that practicing Dharma and being in recovery connect, right? Because the thing that recovery is about, to a great extent, is feeling a lot more. And why were we addicts? Apparently, I'm not going to say we didn't want to feel anything. We just wanted to feel the good stuff, and we wanted to not feel the bad stuff, and which meant ultimately that we weren't really feeling anything very fully. And so you get rid of the substances that are suppressing your feelings, and then you start to feel more. I mean, that's a very common issue and reality for people in recovery. It's like, wow, now I'm really feeling stuff. But hopefully, if we get through the triggering aspects of that, we realize that, oh, this is a good thing to feel a lot. This is what, oh, I'm recovering life. I'm recovering the capacity to feel. That's good. I see what I need to do. Maybe when I got sober, I thought, oh, that's going to fix everything. But instead, I'm realizing, oh, what I need to do is I need to learn to be able to ride with all the ups and downs of life. That's recovery. That's spiritual growth. And then you go on a meditation retreat and you're opening up even further. You're like, really, it's like, now that's why retreats are like, recovery on, I don't know, I'm going to say on steroids, but I don't think that's the right analogy, but it intensifies the experience. It's like, max recovery, and super recovery. Anyway, we'll come up with the branding for that.
May I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Dolores. I'm just,
Yeah. No, I appreciate all that you
rambling.
said. Since January, when fortunately, tell whoever found who, but the whole Buddha was Thich Nhat Hanh, and then you. So that came to me. So we could love Thich Nhat Hanh because of him. I was looking for, the group, and that was when I came to you, and I was so happy to find the 12 steps. So anyway, what I want to say about it all is with the Dharma teaching and doing the 12 steps, I welcome pain today. Like, I'm not afraid of it. Like, if I have depression, and I do occasionally, I just say, okay, depression, let me know let me help you. Welcome it.
Yeah.
I don't run away from the pain anymore because of the Dharma teaching. That was what I wanted to add. And regarding the food, I suffered with all my addictions, and I wanted to have the food lifted the way the alcohol was 41 years ago. I wanted that with the food, and people told me that wasn't possible. Guess what? It's possible. Since January the 11th, I have had that recovery. I call it the 10th step promise recovery. We no longer fight anything or anyone, even alcohol, even food. That's the promise in that 10th step. And people said, no, that's not going to happen with the food. And I said, well, maybe it won't, but it will. That's what I want to say. Working the steps with the Dharma teaching is what did it.
Hmm.
And I'm 43 years in these rooms.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that I can say this. I understand the 10-step promises. I understand them now,
Beautiful.
So thank you for letting me say that.
Yeah. Thanks, Dolores.
Yeah.
That's great.
Mhm.
It's important for people to hear. I mean, that's, one of the certainly 12-step principles is that we share our success as well as our challenges and let people know the possibilities. Lovely. Thank you.
Love you, Kevin. Thank you.
Thanks.